I think you answered this in the first sentence of your layout, but why do you want to require the Ten Commandments in every classroom?
Because they are foundational to our American both educational and judicial systems.
Do you think the Constitution is foundational to our country?
I do, and I'm so proud that in the Declaration of Independence that God is mentioned in the first the two opening paragraphs and the two closing paragraphs. So it was really foundational to our forefathers, even in the Declaration of Independence.
Why doesn't your bill mandate teachers post the Constitution in every classroom instead of the Ten Commandments?
That might be a great bill. It's just not this bill.
Would you accept an amendment?
If you want to write that bill, I would JA it with you, but that is not this bill.
Well, we may have the opportunity. Would you accept an amendment to require the Constitution be posted next to the Ten Commandments in every classroom?
It actually would blow up the bill because that does not fit under the caption of this bill.
I've already checked. It would be germane because the bill is regarding Ten Commandments being displayed in classrooms. Your
amendment would be a very different thing, and no, I would not accept that.
We would require.
But you know what? Next session, if you want to do that, I would be happy to help you with that.
We would require that the display of the Ten Commandments just happen next to the Constitution, so certainly germane to the bill.
No, it is not.
Do you think that the Constitution should be posted next to the Ten Commandments?
Has nothing to do with this particular bill.
Well, not about your legislation, but do you think those two documents should be posted together?
I'm going to stick with the talking points on my bill, if you don't mind. I don't believe that is part of this bill.
So is that a no, that you don't want the Constitution posted alongside the Ten Commandments?
Please confine your remarks to the subject of the bill.
Does the First Amendment to the Constitution forbid the government from establishing a state religion?
Thank you for that question. I really do appreciate it. This bill doesn't establish a religion. It honors and informs us about our heritage and the moral clarity that our forefathers held.
I just want to ask the question again. Does the First Amendment forbid the government from establishing a state religion?
Again, I don't want to get into a whole debate about the Establishment Clause or the Freedom to Worship Clause. That has nothing to do with this. This bill is specifically about our heritage and foundational truths in our education and judicial systems.
I promise, Representative Noble, it's not a gotcha question. I was just trying to establish that the First Amendment forbids the government from establishing a state religion. Is that something we can both acknowledge and agree to?
I will agree with the fact that we don't want government telling religion what to do. We came very close to that during COVID, and that was a very dangerous precipice. And I agree that is not something we should be doing as a legislature.
Let me just do it this way. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Is that?
Some argue that the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment are often in conflict, and that strict adherence to the Establishment Clause can undermine the rights guaranteed by the Free Exercise Clause. So we're not going to debate that today because I think you're getting into some debate that has nothing to do with this bill.
I promise, Representative Noble, I'm not trying to catch you in anything. I'm just making sure you understand that's the plain text of the First Amendment.
Again, I don't think that's relevant to this debate.
So do you acknowledge that's what the First Amendment says, or do you disagree?
I acknowledge that there is both the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause.
Do you know who authored the First Amendment to the Constitution?
Does this have something to do with my bill in particular? Because we're talking about the Ten Commandments, and I do know who authored the Ten Commandments.
So it was James Madison who authored the First Amendment to the Constitution, and in 1819 he wrote that the civil government functions with complete success by the total separation of the church from the state. Do you agree with James Madison? I'm
going to tell you that our founding fathers quoted the Bible themselves so frequently that it is clear that it had a significant substantive influence. They referenced it, they quoted it, they cited it. From profoundly theological reasons to literary and historical reasons. It was viewed as sacred to them, and it was an authoritative text to them. And that is why this is important to return this foundational document to our classrooms.
And again, Representative Noble, you can quote scripture as I often do and still believe in keeping the institutions separate and honoring the First Amendment. Do you believe there is a separation of church and state in this country?
I love that you keep bringing that up, because the same man that you quote that was in a letter, right? That same gentleman had so many other quotes that, let me find them, because I love that you're mentioning that.
Representative Noble, just simple question.
No,
Do you
it's not a
believe in
simple,
this?
there's not a simple answer to it, because, by the way, Jefferson, here we are, here we go. That you're talking about a letter he wrote.
Talking about James Madison, but
oh, you're talking about Madison. I thought you were talking about Jefferson when you were talking
no,
about that quote.
James Madison is the author of the First Amendment.
Oh, well, you had switched to the, you had actually just referenced Jefferson when you mentioned the separation. That is not from
I was quoting James. For sure, Thomas Jefferson also talked about the separation of church and state. I'm quoting here James Madison talking about how the civil government functions with complete success by the total separation of the church from the state. And I was asking if you believe, like James Madison, that there is a separation of church and state.
I do not believe James Madison ever said anything about a separation of church and state. You're actually voting Jefferson with that, and that was in a letter he wrote. And I would like to point out that Jefferson also said, and I'll quote Jefferson in a separate letter. This was a letter from Thomas Jefferson to Reverend Samuel Miller, dated January 23rd, 1808. He said, "The power to prescribe any religious exercise must rest with the states." He actually said that, and so if that's where you're going, I want to make it very clear that if you're sticking with Jefferson quotes, I can keep going with those.
Again, Representative Noble, I'm quoting James Madison, the author of the First Amendment, in his letter to Robert Walsh, talking about the separation of church and state. And I'm asking you, as the bill author, if you believe there is a separation of church and state.
I believe that we as a body should not be telling churches they have to shut down during COVID. I do believe that as members of churches, we absolutely should be involved in government.
Do you believe schools are for education, not indoctrination?
I'm going to refer you to the stack of books that are on my desk that are the Founding Fathers' actual textbooks. And if you want to go look through those and decipher which are education and which is indoctrination, I contend that those books that are full of the Ten Commandments, are full of scripture references, were not indoctrination. Indeed, they were the educational foundation of our Founding Fathers and many, many Americans that have gone before us.
Representative Noble, it's a pretty simple question. Do you believe that schools are for education, not indoctrination?
I just answered that question.
What was the answer?
The answer is, come with me to read through those educational
I'm just looking for a yes or a no rather than going with you to your desk.
I do not believe that telling students what was foundational to our nation is indoctrination in any way.
I would agree if you agree as well that schools are for education, not indoctrination. I think the difference may be that I don't believe Texas teachers are indoctrinating students. As a former teacher myself, if we were able to indoctrinate our students, they would turn in their homework on time and raise their hand when they want to speak in class.
I'm a former teacher myself.
Right.
And we're not asking teachers to be theologians. We're asking teachers to display the Ten Commandments.
I think what I'm trying to get at is any time a teacher has a rainbow outside their classroom, we have politicians in this body crying education, not indoctrination. But now you're bringing a bill that literally forces religious indoctrination into our classrooms.
I disagree completely.
So my question, Representative Noble, is why is having a rainbow in a classroom considered indoctrination?
That is outside
but having
of the four
the Ten
corners.
Commandments
Please confine
is not.
your remarks to the subject of the bill.
The subject of the bill is the Ten Commandments. I'm asking, why is the Ten Commandments being posted in the classroom not considered indoctrination, but a rainbow in the classroom is?
So if you were referring to a rainbow as in the story of Noah's Ark, is that what you're referring to?
I'm saying that there are teachers who have a rainbow in their classroom and it's been called indoctrination. I'm wondering why that same standard is not applying to literal religious indoctrination.
That is not the contention of this bill. This bill is about our foundational education and judicial system being founded in this document and other documents, but this bill is about the Ten
Representative Noble,
Commandments
do you
in particular.
believe in parental rights?
I do believe in parental rights.
Do you believe religious instruction for children is the job of parents and pastors or government employees?
I do not believe that there is a parent in the world that would not appreciate their child being taught to respect authority, to respect others, to not steal, not kill, not lie, and keep their word. I guarantee you that our teachers are just crying out for this kind of instruction in their classrooms.
I'll ask again, do you believe religious instruction for children is the job of parents and pastors or government employees?
Again, we're just talking about a display of the Ten Commandments here.
In committee, when we were discussing this bill, your goal, you said, was for students to, quote, be curious and wonder about the Ten Commandments. Do you think a child, let's say a first grader, would have questions about the Ten Commandments if they're posted on the wall of that classroom?
They might, and I would hope that the teacher took that as an opportunity to teach a child to be respectful of authority, to respect others, to keep their word, to not steal and not... You know what I love about the Ten Commandments is that they're other-focused. In a world that is so self-centered and self-focused, they talk about how you treat others kindly and right. And I love that. It is time for that in our classrooms. And I don't know a parent in the world that wouldn't want that.
So I think the only reason politicians in this body would be micromanaging what posters are put up in a classroom is if we want children to read the posters. And so in between posters of that, let me just finish my question and I'll give you a chance to answer.
I'm sorry.
If in a classroom we're putting up the Ten Commandments in between the colors and the ABCs, we're going to have students ask questions, as you said in the committee. Do you think students will have questions about the Ten Commandments like, what is adultery?
Again, I told you how I taught my children about adultery. It's you keep your word.
So
You keep your word when you make a promise, especially in a family. You keep your word. I think there's more, that we need that more in our society and not less.
And so you're okay with teachers discussing adultery with kindergarten and first
As a
graders?
former kindergarten teacher, I would be very comfortable with that.
Okay, that's good to know. Would you be comfortable with adding language requiring parental consent from all the parents of students in the classroom before putting up a religious document on the walls of the classroom?
No, I would not.
So you're against parents having a say in their students' religious instruction?
I'm against that proposed amendment, yes. I think that we need to return to the foundational truths that our forefathers took, that until 1971 was on the walls of most classrooms and definitely in most textbooks, if you want to come by my desk and look through those textbooks. That we are going back to what was there and was stripped erroneously and has now been corrected in the court. So we have this opportunity to return something that was erroneously stripped.
Texas Public Schools serve a lot of Christian students, but are you aware that schools also serve students from many other faith traditions?
Yes, I love that about Texas.
Muslims, Hindus, Jews, Buddhists, Sikhs, atheists, all kinds of students, correct?
That is true. None of those, however, are relevant to this bill because this is talking about the foundational education system and judicial system.
Well, I think
that is where we started and where we're ending with this bill.
I think all students are relevant in
No,
Texas
I'm
public
talking about
schools.
our forefathers.
How do you think it makes a Hindu student feel to have a poster in every classroom that says, "Thou shalt not worship any god before me"?
Again, if they have come to the United States and they are living here, they're born here, they're citizens, then they would probably enjoy celebrating what made our forefathers so different from every other nation in the world.
I consider Hindu students, Jewish students, Muslim students, atheist students, all students to be my neighbor. And you and I are both, as Christians, called to love our neighbors.
Absolutely.
And
It's
in
the
my
whole-
opinion, forcing our religion down their throats is not love. Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Talerico, for what purpose?
I raise a point of order against further consideration of Senate Bill 10 under Rule 4, Section 18B, on the grounds that the bill's witness list is inaccurate.
Please bring your point of order down front.